Hey, college football fans, I'm Ivan Maisel. On the latest Championship Drive podcast, a crazy famous Idaho Potato Bowl, more WikiLeaks, and we give out holiday gifts.
Dan Le Batard.
Stugotz, you can't go we within the same hour on both the Knicks and the Heat.
I don't recall anything with the Knicks. You guys?
Stugotz.
How do you get up and look in a mirror with half your face painted Knicks colors and half your face painted Heat colors? Like, how do you get up and look in a mirror?
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests on the Dan Le Batard Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance line. And now, your SportsCenter update. Despite George Carl in his new book calling him a conundrum and a user of people, Carmelo Anthony, in regards to Carl's book, says that he hopes his former coach, quote, finds happiness in what he's doing. However, when Carl said that both Anthony and Kenyon Martin were both negatively affected by not having fathers in their lives, and compared both Martin and J.R. Smith to, quote, the spoiled brats you see in junior golf and junior tennis, Martin went to Twitter and called Carl, quote, a terrible person, while Smith responded that Carl is, quote, still trying to be relevant, sad, just sad, end quote. And finally, a man named Noah Foreman hit 240 green lights in a row with only one yellow while smoothly driving across New York City. To accomplish this feat, Noah had to attempt this at 3 in the morning. Assassin's Creed, starring Michael Fassbender, is in theaters everywhere now. Inspired by the video game that's become a worldwide phenomenon, Assassin's Creed leaps onto the big screen in a story packed with action, adventure, and attitude. Ooh. For all the latest headlines and information, tune in to SportsCenter on ESPN Radio all throughout the day. How about that?
Listener tweeted in, horrible, filling in for Dan and Stu. What about sports, not Bachelorette or your voice?
It's got to be a you don't get the show, right?
That's what I was thinking, right?
You don't get the show.
That's the amazing part, that someone could listen to this show as we fill in and say, you're doing an awful job filling in.
Where's the
Talk
sports?
more sports. We've probably done way more sports today than we did yesterday.
Right. And not to mention, the fact that we're even on the air and talking is good. I mean, you barely made it to the studio. You showed up yesterday from a red-eye. Last night you were out partying. I set my alarm wrong and woke up like 15 minutes before the show was set to start. Someone actually, a tweeter, helped me out earlier by letting me know that it's plantar fasciitis, not plantar tendinitis, which I think everyone knew was what I was looking for, but my brain is not functioning.
When did we talk about plantar fasciitis?
David Ortiz. I said maybe it was plantar tendinitis, which I could not find the word fasciitis at the time, but that's what I meant.
I wasn't listening.
Apparently I said the Eagles had won 5 straight when I meant to say they'd lost 5 straight. Either that or this guy misheard me. Also, I could not find the word playoff implications. So the start of the show was rough for me. Let's just be honest. I had just woken up. I could not remember what state I was in or time zone, just that I needed to host the show. I had planned to wake up much earlier. I heard you had just strolled in, didn't realize that you guys had to do the local hour in Miami.
Yeah, that wasn't our fault. Yeah, that wasn't our
fault. It's not miscommunication.
Yeah.
We weren't supposed to do a local hour.
We weren't supposed to do one.
Well, there was a miscommunication in that you ended up having to do it, so something got miscommunicated.
Miscommunication is like the polite way of saying.
Yeah, a miscommunication, like when you send an email saying, like, hey, there's not going to be a local hour on Friday, and you get a reply saying, all right, all set, no worries, all good, and then you are. I'm not sure that's a miscommunication because it seemed as though the communication was all good. I don't think the error was in the communication.
Right, it wasn't the it was someone just not doing their job.
We had this topic yesterday. Just do your job. Do your job. I'm not gonna. You know what? I've come down from the anger of yesterday. Yesterday was an I would like to say uncommonly bad show for me, because I was walking in irritated, and I took it out on the show.
And you were a bit of a zombie. You'd been traveling.
It wasn't a zombie. No, if I was a zombie, then I could have just melted into the background. No, I was actively destructive to the show.
You were a show
so
killer.
Yeah, I was a show killer, but like in a much more nefarious way than Cody. Cody's a show killer, kind of bumbling old man. Mr. Magoo. No, not Cody's not a cornball. What are you talking about?
No,
I mean the jokes.
A little bit. A little bit.
Okay,
come on.
It's an accurate description. But yeah, he's more of a Mr. Magoo.
Mr. Magoo is what I think about when I think of Cody. I was in there sabotage, right? I was setting timers underneath the desk. I was setting up the can of paint to fall over the door when you open the door.
Army. It was the sleeper cell.
It was the sleeper cell. The sleeper cell was definitely in effect yesterday.
Speaking of, there's already dissension among my ranks because apparently it was the Spanish Armada and not the Spanish Armada that had been suggested as my crew. I thought it was a typo. I was trying to help the guy out, but he has since let me know that no, he's not in fact the founding member of the Spanish Armada, but rather the Spanish Armada. So since we can't even come up with our own name, I'm a bit concerned about how we'll fare against Stugotz Army.
The Stugotz Army can't read, right? That's
true.
They would have noticed anyway.
Sarah, tell me about the Jim Henson Company and how that was interning, and what you were doing there, and did you get to play with Gonzo?
God, I wish I could tell you why that's so funny, but it's very personal. So, I can't. God, that.
I just figured it out.
I can't explain it, but it involves.
I was going to say Beaker, but no.
No, it's Gonzo is the right word. I can't. Moving on.
Don't Google that, kids.
It's a thing. That's a thing with someone that I. Right. Moving on. So I worked in the PR department of Jim Henson Company. And as I said, it's this awesome lot right on, I think it's on La Brea in Hollywood, West Hollywood. And it's Charlie Chaplin's old house and surrounding cottages. And so it's a really cool lot. It used to be Chaplin's studios where he did all of his stuff. And Paul McCartney, there's a great recording studio there, which I didn't know is where. Who did you say records this podcast there?
Michael Rappaport.
Yeah, Rappaport. So I didn't know that they did podcasts there now, but there's big recording studios. So like I said, Paul McCartney recorded an album there, and so he'd be wandering around the studio and saying hello, and he ended up having a big birthday party while he was. Don't hate on McCartney.
No,
I've heard your takes.
Fraud.
Nah.
This is the one that I want. As soon as I did that take, by the way, I got back home. I look on Twitter, and look who's doing the mannequin challenge. Paul McCartney. I really like this Black Beatles song.
Fan, so.
As soon as he saw them, he's like, yes, another generation.
He was such a nice guy, though. Listen,
another generation to glom onto.
He could be a total jerk because of his fame and whatever, and he was such a nice guy. He was super down to earth. He had a birthday at the time that he was recording, invited everybody from the recording studio side of the company over to his house, had a big pool party, was throwing people in, was just apparently a totally normal, chill dude. And then Chris Isaac was recording an album there, and I would sit out in the beautiful California sunshine eating my lunch, and Isaac would be sitting on the steps outside the recording studio, going over some songs and stuff. I'm obsessed with that song, Wicked Game.
Wicked Game
should be on every single person's boning playlist.
Who can hit that high note? I can't.
In Wicked Game?
Yeah. No.
That's not even that high.
Well, I can't do it. That's me.
Yeah, see, Mike Ryan just nailed it.
No. That's super sexy video.
Yeah.
Super sexy song.
Video?
Definitely a sexy song. Definitely a sexy video.
Do you guys have set boning playlists, or do you have a channel that you know this is the go-to, or are you just complete silence?
A lot of people. No. I'm willing to help you out here. It's not a go-to every time. I'd be lying if I said I didn't do it. James Blake. James Blake.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wait,
interesting.
What does he sing?
Look, Roy's with me.
James Blake, the tennis player?
No. That's James Blunt. That's James Blunt.
No, James Blake.
No, James Blake is the tennis player, and James Blunt is the musician.
James Blunt has beautiful. Yeah, James Blake is a tennis player. Yeah. James Blake is also a musician, a super producer. Yeah. He did a song.
Oh, I thought you were talking about James Blunt, and I was like, that's not someone I would want to bone to.
No, because James Blake, remember, he had the police brutality thing, and so I thought
I wouldn't be listening to the tennis
I was like,
player.
yo, that's a weird fetish, man. Hold on, baby, let me cue it back up where he's talking about police brutality. He's like, yes.
Wait, what's a song we would know by James Blake?
Hang on, I'll play it. It was used heavily to promote that show, The Leftovers. I don't know if anybody saw it
on HBO.
Yeah. It's one of those songs that you.
Is it "Limit to Your Love"? I feel like I know that song.
He does have a song. There's a limit to your love. Yeah. Hang on. You'll know the first chord. Oh yeah, I've heard that song plenty of times. You just didn't know it's James Blake. Let me find it.
I hear you guys humming in the background, and it sounds like "Take My Breath Away." That's what.
But I'd be lying if I.
Boom, boom.
A good one is 07. Do you know 07?
Nope.
If you want a good, like, just you could put on a whole album instead of having to have like a playlist.
Is that the name of the song or the group?
It's the group. Mike will find some 07 for you too. Like, do you ever see Blue Crush?
My mother-in-law loves Blue Crush.
It's a great movie.
Like, the first like couple months I was dating my now wife, like I would always like walk in and say hello to my mother-in-law, and Blue Crush was always on the TV.
Is that the surfing one?
Well, 07. I'm pretty sure 07. The song "Destiny" is when she has sex with the quarterback guy for the first time in that movie. And all their albums, like all their songs, are perfect for that.
I got a James Blake here song. Like you'll know like right off the bat whether or not you've heard the song or not.
Yeah, Leftovers. You're right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna add this to the playlist. This seems solid.
By the way, all I know is that opening, like now this part here, I would have never recognized it.
That whole album, bangers for.
Yeah.
It was a little literal.
You should work in radio.
Right. You should come back at the next one with 07 Destiny, because you guys will recognize that too. And that group, and Portishead, do you know Portishead?
No.
Love Portishead.
Portishead is another one that always goes on that playlist.
Yo, you know what's funny? Like you said, Blue Crush, and Blue Crush is the type of movie that, like, when you're at a theater and the trailers are coming on and the trailer for Blue Crush comes on, you just know, like, someone like me knows, I mean, this movie ain't for you. Like, just don't even think. It's like when I'm
titles.
Did you see Blue Crush though?
No, because
it was actually a good movie. It was not like it was a good movie. It had cool surfing scenes. It didn't take the relationship like it wasn't super PG about how they interacted and
it's like why I don't watch golf. Like, if anytime I'm like, oh, let me give it a try, the commercials are always like Viagra and like investing your financial planning for your retirement.
You don't have to be the target market to enjoy something.
I'm just looking at it like, yeah, they're telling you.
You could be an outlier.
Go ahead and switch the channel. Go ahead. You know, it's like that Family Guy episode. Where like, it's a mega episode. Go ahead. There's the remote. Check what's happening on ABC.
I promise I'm going to play that Stugotz airing of Grievance, but quickly to wrap up my Jim Henson tale, they had this big party at the end of the summer, and like I said, I was still in college, so I didn't really know how the real world worked, and they had a giant ice luge that the CEO was drinking out of, which I thought was incredibly unprofessional at the time because I didn't realize that adults like to rage just as much as college kids do, but they also had this booth that you walked into that had these black curtains, and then when you went in, you put on headphones, and you listened to the people who do the voices for Miss Piggy and Kermit the Frog did like a fake phone sex conversation between the two of the characters. And so you walked in the booth and put the headphones on. So this party was like really, like everyone got completely destroyed. And actually my boss at the time was the head of PR there. And she, without anybody else in the company knowing it at the time, had been having an affair. Neither of them were married, but it was like undercover with the guy who was running all the janitorial services for the studio and the lot. And they both got so drunk that they passed out in their car because they didn't want to drive home yet, but locked themselves out of the office so they couldn't go in there. So when everybody showed up to work the next morning, they were still asleep, mostly naked in the car in the parking lot.
Shout out to Disney Family. Muppets and the Jim Henson Company. They are part of the Disney family, by the way.
I feel like George Carl. Like, I'm not going to work there anymore.
You kind of
totally
still
cool.
work with them. They're just not in the same department as you are. But
they were consenting adults. They're allowed to, get into some extracurriculars. They probably just would have preferred not to have passed out and not woken up until people were arriving at work, wondering why they were in the car.
You guys had a holiday party like on a weekday? On a school night?
I guess it was. Yeah, I think it was because it's probably like whatever night. Holiday parties usually aren't going to be on the weekends. People want their lives then. All right, we got some updates. J.R. Smith has had surgeries out 3 to 4 months. Coming up, Stugotz grievances. It's Spain and El Hassan. Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Dan Le Batard.
Stu's been like a pressure cleaner of takes today, right?
Yes, he's come in. What happens
Like a
is
sprinkler.
No, but you will notice it.
It's a pressure cleaner, man.
Yes,
There is some force
not a
behind
sprinkler.
this.
It is absolutely not a sprinkler, Stugotz.
Stugotz.
I feel like Stugotz has gone up from the pressure cleaner, and now he is on a knee, and he's got the sleeve of bullets on his right arm as he takes the machine gun, Rambo style, just waving it from nipple to nipple.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
I lie awake. I've gone to ground. I'm watching.
If you missed any of the show, you can listen to all 3 hours of the Dan Le Batard Show on demand in the ESPN app, plus our Miami-only hour that airs before the show. And now you can subscribe to our Best Of podcast. It's all available in the Listen tab of the ESPN app. The NBA is on ESPN Radio. Tune in Christmas Day as the Warriors take on the Cavs, followed by Bulls Spurs. Presented by Tissot. Coverage begins Sunday at 1:30 p.m. on most ESPN radio stations. Sarah, my wife has chimed in with a text message, and she says, not only have you watched Blue Crush, but you watched it at the theater with me. Like, okay.
You must have really enjoyed it.
This
Did you
happened.
recognize that song, though? That was 07.
Nope.
Huh. It's good stuff. I recommend it. A lot of people chiming in that Portishead is a good call. We're also getting some other suggestions from people. So by the end of the show, we should have a complete playlist that we can have Mike Ryan upload to Twitter for anybody who...
So he doesn't have to listen to James Blake talk about police brutality.
Yeah, exactly. Because I got to tell you, I'm sure his wife is just sick and tired of it always being James Blake talking about police brutality every night.
It's fun. It's fun to switch things around.
Yeah. I'm Sarah Spain. He's Amin El Hassan. This is the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz. Of course, no Dan Le Batard or Stugotz. But I asked Stugotz and a couple other colleagues to chime in on a podcast that I did for Festivus, airing their sports grievances. And Stugotz and I have actually a good relationship. We like to mess with each other, but we get along just fine. And this is what Stugotz submitted as his #1 sports grievance for this year.
Hey, it's Stugotz from the Le Batard Show. I've been asked to give Sarah Spain my biggest sports grievance from the past sports year, and the biggest grievance I have is with the person who's asking me to do this, and that's Sarah Spain. That's my grievance. It's Sarah Spain. She should be ashamed of herself. She really should. You know, it's interesting because she came down here. She used my neck as a stepping stone. She used this show as a stepping stone to get herself to SportsCenter and Around the Horn, and I think she did PTI, and I think she hosted Mike and Mike. She did host Mike and Mike because she called me and bothered me to be a guest on that show while I was on vacation. She was hosting Mike and Mike. She was doing it with Greedy. And, you know, it's just interesting because she doesn't come down here anymore. She doesn't do the show with us anymore because she used our show, used Dan, used me, used Mike, used the shipping container to get the things that she wanted out of ESPN. Clearly what she didn't want was coming down here and doing the show because she hasn't come down here in 6 months to do the show with us. And I'm just bothered by this. I'm bothered by Sarah Spain using this and the Chicago Cubs to really enhance her profile. I mean, I would say it's Stugotz 1, Cubs 2, Le Batard 3. And so I'm hurt. And I wasn't invited to the wedding, and I'm never invited to be a guest on Izzy in Spain, or is that the name of the show? I'm never invited on Around the Horn. I'm never invited to do anything that Sarah Spain is doing, yet we welcomed her down here with open arms. She comes down here. She guest co-hosts the show. I take a step back so she can speak more. She does some diss rap and just absolutely annihilates both me and Dan. We don't care. We wear it with a smile. We're cool with it. And Sarah Spain has got on to much greener pastures while I'm still sitting here doing the show. She's on Around the Horn. She's got her own radio show. She's doing PTI. She's doing Mike and Mike. She is running ESPN. In fact, so much so that there was a time there where she had prevented me from going on SportsCenter, and I have come to learn since then, because I thought it was a joke, that she actually has that power. She has the authority to keep me off of SportsCenter. So, Sarah Spain, you are my 2016 sports grievance.
Nice.
This reminds me of when he was going off on Theo and Joe Madden. And the root cause of his anger, which Dan immediately uncovered, was that they were living the life he wanted. Hanging out with Eddie Vedder and, helping a victorious team win a World Series. And I feel like Stu's just dogging on me for using his exact tactics, but to better success.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I mean, you did kind of do the Stugotz. You absolutely did that. You executed it. It's except yours actually worked. That's the difference. And I think
we've seen Stugotz's star rise in unfathomable ways. I mean, he makes hot takes that actually get stories written about them and require coaches and athletes to chime in on whether or not, they really think that this coach is going here or this player should do X or Y. I mean, that's mind-blowing.
The J.J. Watt thing was the best. That's still like a high water mark for Stugotz. That he actually had people debating whether J.J. Watt is indeed a fraud.
Hey, quick question. So Dwayne Wade missed shoot-around today with the migraine. He's questionable for tonight. Is that an issue ever had in Miami, or is this a one-off?
Yeah, he's had that
common?
plenty. Yeah, he's had that plenty.
Not so much
in recent years.
Yeah.
But it was a thing like around 2009. It pops up on him.
And as I mentioned before, we're still just getting more details on this, but it's come across the wires that J.R. Smith has had surgery and will miss 3 to 4 months.
3 to 4 months?
3 to 4 months. 3 to 4 months.
For a thumb?
We'll talk to Jesse Palmer next about The Bachelor and maybe sports. Sarah Spain, Amin El Hassan, Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Dan Le Batard.
I am over T-Sizzle.
Stugotz.
That's enough. It's Taylor on the red carpet. It's Taylor being interviewed. It's who's Taylor's dating. It's Taylor and her posse. It's Taylor and her friends that she brought last night. It's Taylor thanking her fans nonstop. It's Taylor this, Taylor that. I don't want to watch Taylor. I want to watch the Billboard Music Awards. Sizzle.
You guys are done?
Yep.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests on the Dan Le Batard Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance line. And now, your SportsCenter update. Despite George Carlin's new book calling him a conundrum and a user of people, Carmelo Anthony, in regards to Carl's book, says that he hopes his former coach, quote, finds happiness in what he's doing. However, when Carl said that both Anthony and Kenyon Martin were both negatively affected by not having fathers in their lives and compared both Martin and J.R. Smith to, quote, the spoiled brats you see in junior golf and junior tennis, Martin went to Twitter and called Carl, quote, a terrible person, while Smith responded that Carl is, quote, still trying to be relevant, sad, just sad, end quote. And finally, a man in China has managed to cheat death for 25 years after only recently realizing a mysterious tool he was using to crack walnuts was actually a hand grenade. This SportsCenter is brought to you by JCPenney. Save an extra 20% off with your JCPenney credit card and coupon on select items across the store and at jcp.com. Plus, earn $15 JCPenney cash for every $50 you spend in-store, up to $75. That's getting your pennies worth. JCPenney. For all the latest headlines and information, tune in to SportsCenter on ESPN Radio all throughout the day. How about that, huh?
I'm glad
Carmelo
it ended up
doesn't
the way
know
it
what
did,
a conundrum is.
because you Stugotzed it and you slurred the words mysterious and tool together, and I thought you said mysterious stool, and I thought you were talking about his excrement. I was concerned about how he managed to cheat death for years despite having mysterious stool.
I was laughing.
I'm glad it was the grenade. Man, that Chris Isaak song is fire, and it's the perfect way to introduce. Mike Ryan described him as a devastatingly handsome next guest, Jesse Palmer. Thanks for joining us, Jesse.
Guys, that's just because we have great lighting in studio.
That's right. It's all the lighting. Mike Ryan knows all about lighting because he claims that he looks less devastatingly handsome due to new lighting issues at the show, not because he is getting less good-looking with every passing year.
I'm the one that has the face for radio, not him.
I sincerely doubt that. So how excited are you about the new ABC-ESPN partnership to have fantasy leagues for The Bachelor?
Is that actually happening?
Come on, man, get on board. Go to the fantasy page.
I'm way late to the party.
Yeah, you can actually now sign up a team for Bachelor Fantasy. You earn points every week, I believe it is. You pick 4 girls you think will advance to the end, and you earn points every time you're right. And then you can also make guesses about things that will happen on the episode. I imagine it's stuff like canoodling in a hot tub or cat fights or whatever, and earn points based on that as well.
I feel like, though, every year, like, isn't it pretty consistent? I mean, that shouldn't be too hard to pick. I feel like that would be the easiest stuff to pick.
But they actually put a lot of twists in now to try to keep it interesting. They'll bring back ex-boyfriends or people from, like, for instance, you might come back this year and they might have like a double Bachelor where you're actually competing with Nick for the girls.
Well, what are the odds on that happening? Because you might want to dial that up.
Yeah, are you still a single man?
Still single, ready to mingle. Isn't the new guy? Has he already been on? I saw an ad the other day
multiple
at
times.
Like a bus stop. Has he been? Is this like his 4th try?
Right. The first time he got to the final 2, and then when he got rejected, he went on after the final rose and told all of America that they slept together, and he was surprised that she didn't pick him after they boned, which I thought was speaking out of turn, to say the least.
If anybody needs advice on any of this and how to gamble this, you sound like you're like Vegas for this new pool. Like
this is my wheelhouse.
Like
yeah, I feel like I know more about the show than you, and you were on
every episode. Yeah, you should be like the odd maker.
I might be. You never know. How real was your relationship on that show? Because I know you elected not to propose, but you stayed together for a couple months, right? Was that just for the show?
God, you don't forget anything. That's unbelievable. That was 14 years ago.
Yeah, you also forgot someone's name at a rose ceremony. That was too bad.
I did that last week too, and I mean, that still happened.
Don't avoid my question. How real was that relationship, or was it like, she's the best of the bunch, and I'll play along for a few months and then move on?
No, she was great. She was way out of my league. I think she probably figured that out. Probably a couple of weeks into the show, in fact.
Jesse, are the Raiders for real?
The Raiders. Are you guys Raiders fans?
No, I mean I don't dislike them, but unfortunately I'm a Bears fan.
Isn't it just better though for football if the Raiders are good
Absolutely.
and relevant? I feel like in the NFL it is. I'm a huge fan of Derek Carr and how he's played and the toughness he's shown. I guess the one thing at the end of the day, good teams find ways to win, and I guess that's a team. They're so much fun to watch each and every week because they just never seem like they're out of it. Throughout the course of a game, there's a critical mistake at some juncture or point of a game, and they're just able to find ways late to win. And Derek Carr seems like he's one of these quarterbacks that just, late in games, fourth quarters, plays his best football, and they just believe he's going to put him in a situation to do that. I mean, are they a team that can unseat the Patriots in the AFC? No. But, just the fact that I think they're relevant at this point of the season and fighting for a playoff spot in the postseason, I think it's good for the NFL. And to me, they're kind of like must-watch TV every Sunday. I love seeing the Raiders play.
I like them winning, too. But, I mean, that was like your Stephon Marbury question. And you're going to take full credit for that. You were on a team for several years with Rex Grossman, and I need a good Rex Grossman story. The sex cannon. F it, I'm going deep. Tell me something good about Rex.
Sexy Rexy?
Yeah.
Well, I was only there with for like a year with Rex, and this is all before social media and camera phones. Probably a good thing for both of us during our time in games, though. But he was awesome. He was a legend. He was a legend as a freshman. So I can only imagine what it was like his last 3 years there in Florida.
But no specifics. You have no one story that stands out from your year with Rex Grossman.
No, I mean I don't know if I have a story that you want me to tell on the radio. I got some, a lot of football stuff, but yeah, I don't know if I necessarily have that sort of inside access.
It's disappointing. Rex Grossman became a legend in Chicago as well, and unfortunately for the Bears, he's the last quarterback to take them to a Super Bowl.
Still pretty good though.
I mean, he was fine.
Yeah, I mean, listen. I mean, Chicago fans. I mean, they've been spoiled with so much success in so many different sports, and obviously, right now with the Cubs winning, it's another chapter. But still, I mean, for a team that obviously the identity of that team for all those years was defense, certainly, and I think for Rex, that year he had. I mean, I know it was good Rex, bad Rex at times, but still,
right.
It was unbelievable. I mean, like I know it's just kind of former teammates of his, a bunch of Florida Gators. We were all texting each other during the course of that run, and we're just like, this is crazy. We're just watching him, and it was the gunslinger mentality that he had in college. It was still there. It was awesome.
He kept things interesting. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, like, you just want a guy that's going to turn around and hand the football off 60 times a game and then throw like
we had that a lot right before him, and that's what I used to say back then. Was at least there's a chance for a deep ball.
I know.
Yeah.
Like this, it's like fun and gun it a little bit.
Jesse, true or false? Broke Down Palace, great movie.
I never saw it.
Has Claire Danes in it.
Yeah, Claire Danes.
Before she was in
became
Homeland.
Known as a CIA operative. Homeland.
I'm totally in. Probably can't Netflix that one, right? That's going to have to be like an iTunes purchase.
Right, I think so. Or it's probably in reruns on like CBS or something in a heavily edited format.
Yeah, well spent $4.99.
Exactly. So you're doing SEC Network stuff, and are you working a specific bowl, or what's your job in the upcoming stretch of the college football season?
Yeah, so Brent Musburger and I we just got done calling the Las Vegas Bowl last week between Houston and San Diego State. So now I'm off to Houston to call the Texas Bowl between Kansas State and Texas A&M, and then Brent and I will call the Sugar Bowl, Auburn, Oklahoma, on January 2nd, and then it's off to Tampa for the week doing studio stuff for the national championship game. And
where are you based out of for single women listening, since you said that you're still single?
Well, it's a city that unfortunately doesn't have a cosmopolitan flair, awful food, no museums, brutal airports.
Appealing.
It's called New York City.
Ah, okay. So you're having trouble meeting people, is what you're saying. That's why you're still single. No.
I feel like every college football season, I'm just basically. I'm sure you guys go through a little bit of this too. I'm just sort of dating my job.
Right. Yes.
Jesse Palmer, not ready to mingle.
Yes, not ready to mingle. I mean, the last known tabloid story about you involved a Maxim model, but it was several months ago. So who can say whether that's a flame that continued? Maybe you can.
As soon as you combine Maxim and model, that's probably false. Again, out of my league.
I think maybe you're underselling yourself. Mike Ryan would date you.
Well, I'm Canadian, so we're pretty good at
the undersell.
Modesty is one of our strengths.
Well, I look for. I'm going to start hitting you up when this Bachelor ABC Fantasy connection starts happening. I believe you have to be signed up by January 2nd in order to play. So I think you should definitely have like Matthew Berry's got a fantasy league because he's the fantasy guy. I think it's clear that you need to have your own Jesse Palmer Bachelor League.
I think, but you've already proven on this call, you're the guru. You're the one that needs the league. You're unbelievable. You have one of those you're like the beautiful mind when it comes to that show. You remember stuff from 14 years ago. Your recall is unbelievable.
No, it's troubling. It's potentially
a gift.
A sign that my life
is
going downhill.
A gift. There's a lot of money coming your way.
All right. Well, I appreciate you joining us, Jesse, and I will be in touch to force you to awkwardly discuss hot tub canoodling and otherwise.
I look forward to it, guys. Happy holidays.
Oh,
yeah. Enjoy the Bulls. It's
Cheers.
Sarah Spain and Amin El-Hassan. It's Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Start your day with Barbasol Shaving Cream, America's leader for a close, comfortable shave.
Dan Le Batard.
I can't believe Mike Ryan fell asleep during. That is an affront to art. It's just blasphemy.
Who goes to Vegas for shows, honestly?
Really?
Stugotz.
Yeah, I mean, Vegas for shows?
Yes, you go to Vegas for shows.
No, I go to Vegas to gamble to get away from my wife.
Okay, that too.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on ESPN Radio.
Sarah Spain and Amin El-Hassan. This is the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Mentioned it earlier, J.R. Smith has had surgery. He's out 3 to 4 months. Vikings running back Adrian Peterson now ruled out versus the Packers. And of note, Joe Mixon is set to meet the media this afternoon. Should be interesting. Amin, yesterday, Twitter went crazy after Tiger Woods posted a photo of himself shirtless with large hairy nipples, flexing his, like crossing his arms over his chest, sunglasses, a white goatee, a Santa hat, no beard because he had some sort of painted on beard of his own, and a hat, and wrote, "Christmas tradition that my kids love, Mac Daddy Santa is back." First of all, it's a deeply troubling photo that burned my retinas, but also, is there any chance whatsoever that the character of Mac Daddy Santa actually originated during some sort of fun playtime with his children?
Oh, I thought you meant in the bedroom. That's what I thought.
That's what I said. Is there any chance it's actually a character he invented to play with his kids? Because I would surmise that Mac Daddy Santa came about in some other way, and he brought it home to his children in a disgusting crossover of two worlds.
So, like, he had so much fun with the waitress from Shoney's the night before.
Yes.
They said, you know what, guys? Let's run this bit again. But let's repurpose it
Yes.
for the kids. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to wear a hat in addition to the wig and the sunglasses and the shirt.
I heard people say that it was a great sign that Tiger Woods is back to his old self again, that as soon as he starts doing pervy sex-related things, that means his golf game's probably back on top.
Yeah.
On top.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Phrasing. Yeah.
No, I don't know what to make of Tiger Woods anymore. I think he's like Tara Reid, right? Just spiraling out of control.
Please explain.
Just like at one point.
I'm ready to follow along, but you need to take me there.
What was Tara Reid and what's the other one? The Amanda Bynes, another one, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like the really hot momentum at one point, and then the incredible amount of fame and success destroys and rots their innards, and then they just become these kind of almost caricatures.
Really? You're drawing that from the Mac Daddy Santa? Because we're like a few years removed from his big controversy, and now he's like sort of like wading back into both golf and the public eye, and this is like not something ever within his character. Like we've never seen goofy Tiger Woods this way.
But it's not goofy though. It's like it's not like when Shaq puts on a wig and starts singing, like lip syncing to Aretha Franklin.
Well, I think it's meant to be goofy, but he's so creepy that it just comes across as really creepy.
Yes.
It shows you how insulated he is, probably.
Yes.
Where he's like, oh, my kids love it. This would be funny. Like no one's gonna like think any like they'll laugh because it's funny. It's something that I do with my kids, and like he has friends around him. Like yeah, you should post that.
Forgetting that we're all like, no, we read your text messages, dude.
Worse than that. It's like I feel like he's got like a publicist who's saying, now Tiger, you got to be more on social media. You have to have a social media presence. Wait, why does my PR guy
somebody did point out that you can see in the reflection. Yeah, why you're like listen here, see? Yeah.
It sounds like Mike Greenberg.
Yeah,
I don't have this on any authority. Now this is just my opinion.
That's a
but Tiger's publicist is giving him bad ideas.
That's a terrible impression. But someone did point out you can see in the reflection of his sunglasses a woman taking the photo, and they're wondering who she is and why she didn't say, this is a terrible idea. Do not post this.
Can we talk about the real awful part about this whole story is Tiger Woods took that picture, and he learned through social media reaction that he had large nipples.
Yeah, I guess he didn't know. Well, also, it's got like a weird hair pattern on them.
Yeah, like you got to
like it's very centralized to just. There's a lot of hair, and it's all just right on top of his giant nipple.
It's almost like those monks, the friars, right? Like where it's the hairs around there. And
the one angle does look. The one on the right, just because of the angle, does look a bit like a moob. And for a guy who's like an athlete and in shape, it looks a little mooby.
No,
I'm guessing it's the angle.
You're not seeing
that's how it happens, man. You think you're all good. You have no idea. Yeah, I'm going to take my shirt off.
When did you learn, Mike?
When I went to a poll one time, and I was like, people made the observation. I was like, wait, I thought I was good.
But it's a pepperoni.
Who told you that you had large nipples?
It's going to be mean.
Who told you? Was it a friend of yours?
No,
was it just
kids at a community pool, and my grandparents. I was like, oh no, and I like ran out, and I was like covering them.
And then how long did it take you to bare your nipples again?
Yeah, well, like a grit of death humiliation. I thought like I'd gotten over that, but apparently nope.
No. And now you have to do it again. Don't you have to wear a singlet that will once again show your large nipples?
Yeah. Yeah, I've noticed that if I there's a hair pattern that I can put on my chest that shades it a little bit, that it's not so bad.
It's a smart move. Yeah, you're better off shading it than doing what he did, which is essentially highlighting their size by having a hair-shaped ring around them.
Maybe he thought it would camouflage.
My favorite is Rory McIlroy tweeting, "Wake me up when it's 2017," with a link to Tiger's post. I'm Sarah Spain. He's a mean. Thanks for letting us fill in. I'll be in all next week, too. Lucky you.
Hey, baseball fans, I'm Buster Olney. And on the latest Baseball Tonight podcast, a big and shocking strike for slugger Edwin Encarnacion, and we have a major landscape shift in the Hall of Fame voting.
Hey, basketball fans, this is Kevin Pelton. On the latest NBA Lockdown, Dave McMenamin and I talked about George Karl stirring up controversy, the impact of J.R. Smith's injury will have on the Cavs, and we chat with Mark Spears of the Undefeated.
Penn State has won 9 straight, the Big Ten title, and are ranked 5th in the nation. USC awaits winners of 8 in a row. The Rose Bowl game presented by Northwestern Mutual, January 2nd at 5 Eastern on ESPN Radio.